Today, I have a missive from Colonel Allen West, former head of the Republican Party here in Texas, and I thought it was pretty good, so I wanted to share it with you. He said, "I'm speaking from the Holiday Inn Express in Del Rio, Texas." Yes, the same Del Rio, Texas that was practically in the news every day during the Biden administration, evidencing the droves of tens of thousands of illegal aliens who are flowing into the nation through this gateway. Of course, as you know, there were somewhere around 20 million brand new Americans that came in during the Biden administration. But I digress. He says, "I am here in several Texas border counties recognizing outstanding constitutional law enforcement officers from Kinney, Sutton, and Kerr counties as part of the American Constitutional Rights Union Defender Initiative." He said, "As I drove through Kinney and Valverde counties, there was absolutely a noticeable difference. You did not see law enforcement vehicles every 800 meters. There are no more high-speed chases down Highway 90. The children in Kinney County have not had a lockdown in over 6 months due to an illegal alien bailout or pursuit. I stood there at the International Bridge in Del Rio, and there was no chaos. There were no mass throngs of people polluting and trashing the area, trying to get their turn to break into America illegally. As you know, Texas shares some 1,249 miles of border with Mexico, and it appears we have regained operational control of our southern border. So, when I flip on the news and I watch all these insidious riots being waged by the progressive socialist leftists, my question is simple. What's the point? Saturday was the 250th anniversary or birthday of the U.S. Army. However, for the left, it was a day to remind people of why their party symbol is a jackass. These so-called No Kings protests leave me scratching my head. I find it very laughable that leftists do not consider mandating people what type of car they can drive or what kind of food they can eat, dishwashers and stoves they're allowed to have, what kind of shower head they can use, and the amount of toilet water they can flush as tyrannical. Nope, controlling your life is just fine with the left. Telling you that you cannot own a firearm or defend yourself while illegal aliens are getting both firearms and committing acts of violence against Americans, perfectly acceptable to the left. Now, I want to know what delusional, deranged Democrat strategist came up with the chucklehead idea that they should riot in the streets to protect criminal illegal aliens. You know, the murderers, the rapists, the child sex offenders, those who assault and set women on fire on subways, who kill female college students and mothers. What person said, "This is a great idea. This is how we'll win back the American vote"? And then to have useful idiots and mindless lemmings like Maxine Waters tell us this is all peaceful. Only leftists would believe what an illegal immigrant tossing a Molotov cocktail at a law enforcement officer or dropping cinder blocks from overpasses is peaceful. Again, what is the point, Democrats? The point is simple to comprehend. The progressive socialist leftists care more about their open borders agenda to fundamentally transform America than they care about you, your safety, or security. They care little about the Constitution, the rule of law, and it actually appears they embrace foreign criminals and terrorist organizations. I mean, why else would a United States Senator, Chris Van Hollen, make an utter fool of himself and go to El Salvador and plead for the release of an El Salvadoran citizen who broke into our country illegally and is now facing charges for both human and sex trafficking, not to mention conspiracy to commit murder? One can only deduce that Van Hollen, who shared a margarita with Abrego Garcia, thinks of him as just a fine, cheeky fellow. Yes, the leftists want more young American U.S. Air Force Academy cadets like 18-year-old Ava Moore to die at the hands of criminal illegal immigrant females from Venezuela. Ava Moore was just kayaking on Lake Grapevine in North Texas near Dallas when she was struck by this cretin on a jet ski. But maybe that's the point. Leftists are rioting because they want more illegal aliens to have jet skis. The bottom line is simple. Leftist, Marxist, They're compatriots, Islamic jihadists. They cannot win you over with reason. They cannot advance their ideological agenda through logical debate. When they believe, what they believe in does not stand scrutiny by anyone with a functional brain. Therefore, they must foment fear. They must promote coercion, forcibly intimidate, and ultimately enact violence to advance their ideals. The left's own definition of an insurrection, this is really one, and President Trump has every right to put this insurrection down by the means he commands. For those attacking federal law enforcement agents, that is a crime. Purposely destroying federal property is a felony. And all of these leftists that are decrying the state's rights would not do so when a state stands against dismembering unborn babies in the womb, do they? President Trump is acting in pursuance thereof in regards of our Constitution, protecting our national sovereignty and ensuring domestic tranquility. For 4 years, leftists watched the Biden administration autopen, undermine our border security, and remember, the border is secure. That's what they kept saying. They said nothing while 20 million people poured into our country illegally, including military-aged males, non-state, non-uniform belligerents, and Chinese operatives. Now we are taking action to get rid of these criminal illegal aliens, and leftists, along with the jihadists, are rioting. What is the point, I ask? The progressive socialist left, the Democrat Party, hates America. They hate anyone who stands in the way of their totalitarian control, and they hate you for being a patriot and believing in this nation. They happily prefer to allow criminal, illegal aliens to murder you, to rape our women, to commit heinous acts of depravity against our children, and will gladly burn this nation down just to have domination and complete power. So what's my point? Well, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will honor my oath and take insurrectionists to the woodshed. Steadfast and loyal are not just words, but the calling by which I live. Well, that was Colonel Allen West, personal friend of mine and a great Texan.
I miss COVID.
I know. Dude, you know what I knew? There was trouble when anyone that came to our country didn't have to get a vaccine. And I go, if you're telling me I can't go to work, but everyone coming in doesn't have to get one, I go,
well, once we found out when Fauci said, okay, I'm sorry, but if you've had 2 boosters and 2 vaccines, you can get and give COVID to another guy who's had 5 vaccines and 4 boosters. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between a vaccine and a booster? I don't know. It's just more vaccine, but booster sounds better. Anyway, a guy with 25 vaccines would get and give COVID to another guy with 25 vaccines. That's why I'm introducing the daily COVID shot. Every day you get a shot. By the time you get to your car, you got no immunity. But it's a beautiful 39 seconds.
You know, we need people to remember us and think good things about us every day. We need to give gifts to friends, loved ones, and customers. And that's why you need to go see my friends, Brian and Christina, at crazinesscreations.com. There you will find amazing custom t-shirts, coffee mugs, and incidentals that are going to make their day. You can find a t-shirt for your honey from the great Stylized Owl collection, or something for your friend or client or customer to cement your relationship for years to come. Don't forget, you have to get reelected to be grandma, grandpa, aunt, or uncle of the year, and that requires gifts. So crazinesscreations.com gives you an inexpensive way to engender warm and loving feelings for a lifetime. crazinesscreations.com, crazinesscreations.com, crazinesscreations.com. Go there today. Get those goodies for your friends, loved ones, and clients. You won't regret it, and they're going to remember you. Well, even 5 years later, questions about the 2020 election aren't going away because it was obvious that it was completely filled with fraud. FBI Director Kash Patel turned over a cache of buried bureau documents about a potential ploy from China to influence the election by printing and sending thousands of fake driver's licenses to the U.S. to secure fraudulent mail-in ballots. Patel called the allegations alarming, but for the FBI's previous leadership, they might be damning, except for, of course, no one is likely to be punished for any of this. Patel himself published the story with a post on X. The FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations. He turned the documents over to the Senate Committee Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley, whose committee handles Senate oversight for the Justice Department, and who has shown plenty of willingness to take on the D.C. deep state, even though he may indeed be a part of it. In a statement to Just the News, Patel said the documents include allegations of plans from the Chinese Communist Party to manufacture these fake driver's licenses. And according to Just the News, officials familiar with the documents said they were from August of 2020 and based on information from a source who told the FBI over the summer that China was manufacturing and exporting these fake licenses. The intelligence source claimed the plot was specifically designed to benefit Biden. Considering the disaster that the Joe Biden presidency wrought upon the United States for the last 4 years, Afghanistan, the border invasion, just for starters, inflation, are you kidding me? Thank God Donald Trump has gotten that under control. It shouldn't surprise anyone that China would be rooting for the outcome of having their man Joe, who got several $1 billion in bribes from China. What might be shocking, though, is that in September of 2020, only a month after the initial report was made, FBI Director Wray testified to the Senate committee that he saw no evidence of foreign powers meddling in the election. CNN writer Chris Chaliza, a leftist hack of the First Order, wrote a predictably liberal leftist take on Wray's testimony that was published under the headline, FBI Director Shuts Down Donald Trump's Vote Fraud Conspiracy. Well, the new FBI Director has kind of picked it up. He can't talk about some things, but apparently he's going to talk about this. The only fair thing to happen, by the way, is that the 2020 election should be thrown out and every single law and edict that was passed during the Biden administration should be repealed, effective immediately. It's time to try to save America, folks. The logical conclusion that the powers in Washington, very much including Christopher Wray, arise to election security. Questions arising to election security as Americans move to choose between Trump and Biden was an unacceptable risk, and they chose to hide the information instead of telling us about it. Pray, saints. It's all we can do.
You have a choice, and you chose Freedom 1300.